made it to the end of round 5, she would have retained her title. But Miesha Tate, desperate in the 5th round, knowing she was trailing on the scorecards, went for broke. She caught Holly, submitted her with 330 at 3:30 of round 5, to become the new bantamweight champion. I want to say she's like 18-3 now, and 2 of those 3 losses on her record are from Ronda Rousey. So what does this do for the bantamweight title picture? Well, it, like I said, it f's it up. It makes it all freaking confusing. You know, Holly has a claim at the title at a title match. Ronda has a claim at a title match. Ronda has a claim at a match versus Holly. Do they make Ronda fight Holly in a non-title match to determine who goes on to take on Miesha Tate? I don't like that one bit. But geez, I don't know. I don't know what you do. Like, do you have Ronda take on Miesha first? Do you have Holly take on Miesha first? It's a giant mess. Everybody in UFC was hoping that Holly would win this fight and set up, the big rematch with Ronda, and instead she got caught in a submission in the final round and lost as a result. So that's your biggest story out of all this. It's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as a UFC fan. If you are one, I am one. To see from a booking standpoint how they go about trying to fix this mess. It's going to be a very tall task for them. I think no matter what you do, I don't know what the win is. If Ronda beats Holly, if you do the Ronda versus Holly thing, one of them's getting denied a title fight that they shouldn't be denied. So someone's getting screwed, and not in a good way. But we'll keep an eye on it. It's fascinating. Congratulations to Miesha Tate, by the way. A great veteran fighter. Like I said, 18-3 now career in the UFC. I want to say, I might be wrong on that. And she has also been fairly classy in both victory and defeat throughout her career. And she, as a matter of fact, gave a very surprising and enjoyable interview on our own, if you're a Minnesotan like me, our own KFAN radio this morning on the Power Trip Morning Show. Miesha Tate stopped by and gave an interview, and it was actually a really, really good, fresh off of her championship victory interview, and I highly recommend it. So if you missed out on that today, yes, I pub other people's stuff for free just because I like it and believe in it. Check out the KFan app or section on iHeartRadio or whatever. Look up their podcast and find the Power Trip Morning Show from today, March 10th, and check out that 10 to 15 minute interview that they did with Miesha Tate. It was fantastic. I enjoyed listening to it very much. I applaud not only KFAN, but especially the Power Trip Morning Show for actually having sports, current relevant sports story included in their show, let alone an interview from, an actual sports celebrity that's current and not just one of the guy's freaking dads or whatever. Way to go. Great job. Keep up the good work, K-Fan. But so anyway, there is your big UFC talking points and news from this past Saturday's UFC 196 pay-per-view. And we will be moving on semi-quickie style through our remaining topics here on the show. Like I said earlier, wanted it to be 60 to 90 minutes long, and we are past the 60-minute point with multiple sports here still to discuss. So let's get some of that out of the way as quick as possible. Let's do an official quickie in the world of tennis, where earlier this week it was announced that female tennis star Maria Sharapova failed a drug test at the Australian Open. Now, keeping a lot of details that dumb this story down and make it not as juicy as you might think on the surface. The banned substance that she was busted for was just recently banned here in January of 2016. Prior to that, she had been using it legally, medicinally, for the last 6 or 7 years. I want to say she said it goes by the more common name of meladonium or something like that. Something along those lines, real close to that. Um, but anyway, it wasn't her really going out of her way getting caught, to get caught cheating as like, a steroid user or anything like that. Just a newly banned substance that has multiple names, and the name she was, it was written out to her for is not the name that it's written up in the banned substance policy as, which, as I said, is only a couple months old. But so she owned it. She had a press conference. A lot of people thought she was retiring, but when she announced that she had a press conference with big news, which I'm glad she wasn't, because female tennis needs more names and drawing power than just Serena Williams right now. She's really kind of carrying the torch all by her lonesome, in that sport, in my opinion at least, at the time being. Sharapova had a little, 1, 2, 3 year run there, but it's kind of fallen off a little bit. But people still know who she is, so it's good for her to be in the sport, as well as competing and playing at a high level. Hopefully, with all the circumstances that we know about this story, that the ATP tennis, league headquarters or whatever, go extremely lenient on her. It's a first-time offense, and, hopefully they just make her sit out like a minor tournament, or two or something like that, and it doesn't affect any kind of major attendance for her, because the sport of tennis needs, as I mentioned, all the drawing power that they can get when they've got events going on, especially their majors. But so that was your news in the world of tennis earlier this week. A little bit of baseball, and we'll start with the news in general. In the playoffs this past season, Dodgers infielder Chase Utley was suspended for a concussive blow that he dealt to, I want to say it was Jose Reyes of the New York Mets, a huge key player of theirs. My National League MVP of the year, as a matter of fact, Jose Reyes, not the official one. But anyway, Chase was suspended for 2 games for that hit, and it was announced since our last show that 2-game suspension has been withdrawn, and it is no longer in place, so he will not be suspended at all for those actions. I don't like it. I'm okay with reducing it maybe to 1 game, but to lay down, a punishment for a physical act that it's debatable whether it belongs in the game or not, and regardless of where you stand on that debate, you can't argue with the consequences of what happened there. So to just completely retract it, I don't like. I think it sends a horrible mixed message. Where as long as, it says to me that Major League Baseball will only do things if people are crying about it and throwing a fuss about it, but they really don't have any moral standards of their own, in that they uphold on a consistent basis in regards of where they come down on enforcing their rules or not. So not a fan of that. Would have been okay if they reduced it from 2 to 1, but completely eliminating it, bad call, Major League Baseball. Bad call. Strike 3, you're out. No, but and then just a little bit of Twins spring training to be excited about. Twins are looking fairly good here from, whatever you can take out of watching a baseball team play spring training games. But the couple just key bright spots right now that I want to point out and focus on, we'll move on to other topics before we're out of time here, is starting with the pitching rotation. It's very possible that we're going to have a really good pitching rotation. We just need to be able to swallow our pride on 1 or 2 people, such as a Ricky Nolasco, primarily, for example. But Erwin Santana pitched today. He had 3 perfect shutout, no-hit innings before he was pulled, so couldn't have done any better. Jose Barrios came in after that and pitched 3 scoreless innings of his own. I think he gave up 1 hit in his 3 innings, and he is going to have a spot in this starting 5 rotation at some point. But I want to say we're going to have to do the Chris Bryant thing that the Cubs did last year, where we sit him out at least the first 2 weeks. Because if you sit him out at least the first 2 weeks and don't call him up, then his service time doesn't start for an entire another year. So you'll have 7 years of contract on him, where if you call him up right away to start the season, instead of making him sit just 2 weeks, then you have 6 years on his contract instead of 7 years. So why wouldn't you, pay 2 weeks for an entire year? The way, like I said, the way the Cubs did last year with Chris Bryant. But knowing the Twins, this is the one thing I will add in there yet, is knowing the Twins, they will not do it after that 2 weeks or even 3 weeks is up. They will wait until sometime in May or June or, right away, or, going into or coming out of the All-Star break. Knowing the Twins, that's when they'll freaking wait to make the move. And it could have been winning them games and competing for a playoff spot, a month before they'll actually do it. But like I said, I am all for the Twins not having Berríos on the main roster for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season, so that we can get an extra year out of his contract. Because this guy, from all the eyeball tests and everything you hear in your ears, this Berríos kid is the real deal. Santana looks like he might be the real deal as well. He played very good last year, pitching when he came back from his suspension. Looks to have not missed a step, be picking up right where he left off. So, and then you got Duffy and Gibson and Hughes, and, that could be a decent rotation. So we'll keep an eye on that. Things are encouraging. Then the other encouraging thing I want to point out from preseason here with the Twins, before we talk hockey and basketball, is our newly signed DH/backup first baseman from Korea, Mr. Byo-hung Park. He has hit multiple home runs. That's right, numerous dingers here in spring training already. In, 2 weeks worth of a week and a half. Not even. I want to say we're like 8 days into spring training, so just barely over a week's worth of spring training. And he's already got multiple dingers. So that is fantastically encouraging to see that the power that we were hoping he has, he does in fact have. Now all that we're really going to need to wait and see is, when he gets to facing the best of the best major league pitchers on a day-to-day basis, can he figure out how to see the ball and hit that variety of pitches, from people he's never ever seen before. That's really the only question to remain. But at least he possesses. We've seen this early on. We've been able to see that he does, in fact, at least possess the abilities that we paid him and acquired him to come here and provide. It's just a matter of whether he will or not. But still, it's great to have that question mark crossed off the list behind his name. So things looking pretty good, in my humble opinion, as a Twins fan here early on in spring training. All right, well, moving on to, let's go to balls on ice. Shall we talk a little hockey, since my and possibly your Minnesota Wild were in action tonight at home facing the very lowly Edmonton Oilers, who do, however, have one of the top two awesome young studs that were the top two picks in this last year's hockey draft, and they got the cream of the crop. They got this generation's Wayne Gretzky, and he goes by the name of Conor McDavid, not to be confused with Conor McGregor, who we talked about in the UFC segment, Conor McDavid. But as I mentioned, they were at home at the Xcel Center tonight, playing that game. Dubnyk was out with injury, minor injury, mind you. A few other guys, I want to say Pominville was out as well. Penalty kill unit's been struggling. They've been changing some stuff up there lately. They got Parise on the penalty kill now, which is where he broke his ankle or foot or whatever back in New Jersey, and some people are freaking out about that. But I say you do what you got to do to win. You don't play with fear of getting injured. But anyway, they ended up losing 2-1 with Kemper at goalie tonight at home against the Oilers. And I am sorry, but what the heck? Okay, this is the real issue with Minnesota Wild hockey. This season especially, and even some of last season, but primarily this season. Why the heck can't we win on our home ice? Like, what's up with that? Why do we stink on our home ice? Granted, we did get a pair of home wins in a row against the Panthers and the Avalanche a few games ago. Then we won 2 road games against the Maple Leafs and the Sabres, crummy teams. Then we came back home here on the 6th, lost to the Blues 4-2, we can take that. Blues are a really good team, and it was on that was on the back end of a back to back. You're not going to have the energy